the motion on transmission of all treaties by federal ministries, departments, and agencies to the National Assembly, standing in the name of Hon Ossai Nicholas Ossai. Hon Ossai is invited to move the motion.
Federal Constituency of Delta State. Mr. Speaker, transmission of all treaties by federal ministry, departments, and agencies to the National Assembly. The House note that local status of any country are not always sufficient to address issues of man's existence and sustenance. Hence, the undoubted need for international laws to complement local status. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the House also notes that international law arguably remains a major source of Nigerian law, which in principle is fundamentally binding in Nigeria. Observe, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that presently there is no accessible, comprehensive, and up-to-date record of the published compendium of treaties to which Nigeria is a signatory. Also aware, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that the United Nations record shows that Nigeria has ratified over 400 treaties, both bilateral and multilateral, on different subject matters, out of which less than 40 can be identified as having been recorded locally by the Federal Ministry of Justice. Also aware, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that on 21st August 2017, the Attorney General of the Federal Federations and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami San, was reported to have identified a major challenge to domestication of treaties in Nigeria as a non-arrangement for early involvement of the National Assembly in the negotiation process, which adversely affects facilitations, domestications, and full protection of the country's international agreements. Cognizance, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that some of the undomesticated treaties could have a direct positive impact on advancement of the fundamental rights of the citizenry and the national economic growth. Concern, Mr. Speaker, that the non-involvement of the National Assembly in the negotiation process in line with Section 5 of the Treaty Making Procedures Act and the failure to transmit all signed treaties and international instruments to the National Assembly by the executive arm of government have affected the rate of domestication of the treaties and also deny citizens the benefit associated with such international treaties. Also, cognizant, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that the intention of Section 12 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, which vests the National Assembly with power to enact treaties, is not a clog in the wheel of executive progress, but a sword in the hands of the legislator to defend Nigerian sovereignty and territorial integrity. Inform, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, that as an urgent engagement by the legislatures and executive will create a synergy and collaborative effect that will lead to a collaboration between both arms of government for proper realizations of the objective of Section 12 of the Constitution and also Section 5(1) of the Treaty Making Procedures Act of 2000. Resolve, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, to call on the federal ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, to transmit all signed, ratified, and domesticated treaties and other international agreements, both bilateral, multilateral, to the Registrar of Treaties in the Federal Ministry of Justice and to the National Assembly within 2 weeks. Also resolved, to call on the Registrar of Treaties in the Ministry of Justice to transmit the list of all ratified domesticated treaties and international agreements to the National Assembly within 3 weeks for further legislative action. Urge Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ensure that all signed treaties are presented in the National Assembly within 30 days for domestication. Also urge the President to ensure early engagement and involvement of the National Assembly in the negotiation team of any treaties and international agreement to which Nigeria is interested. Further urge Mr. President to ensure that all signed treaties and other international agreements are initiated and presented to the National Assembly as an executive bill, and to stop all counterpart funding for all agreements, protocols with financial implications until such agreements and protocols are domesticated by National Assembly, and mandate the Committee of the Treaties, Protocols, and Agreements to, as a matter of urgency, commence the review of all treaties, agreements, and protocols signed and ratified by Nigeria. I so move. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, just as I earlier said in the body of the motion, that over 400 treaties, agreements, and protocols has been signed, ratified by by Nigeria. And yet, these treaties are of benefit to our citizens. Some of them are human rights that can protect you and protect your family, and yet not domesticated. That means it does not have force of law. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, Section 12 of the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria has vested power on you and me to be able to legislate and domesticate these laws that we have signed. Because if you have gone to negotiate international treaty, it's for the good and benefit of the country. But it can only be beneficial to the country and its citizens if it is well domesticated. And Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, you will recall that even the Treaty Making Procedure Act, under Section 5, subsection 1 of it, B of it, you look at that every treaty that has some financial implication must reach to the National Assembly. And you can see yesterday, we just constituted a committee to look into one of the issues for an agreement signed which Nigeria is likely going to lose about $9.something billion. These are key issues that National Assembly has to come to bear. Mr. Speaker, you also recall currently, even the Central Bank of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was about swapping the Nigerian currency under an agreement with the Republic of China. And yet, the body that represents the people, that protects the people's interests, and that are supposed to oversee those issues of the people are not being carried along in the process, whereby such very fundamental issues are being discussed. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleague, you will recall that in the year the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1949, that the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement in several cases on the need to domesticate treaties. There was a case in 1949, but not under Supreme Court. But Supreme Court made its own pronouncement, which I read with your kind permission. That is, they made pronouncement in several cases on the need to domesticate treaty in order to have force of law in the country. And some of the cases include a case of registered trustee of National Association of Community Health Practitioners of Nigeria versus Medical Health Workers of Nigeria. Which was decided in 2008. Where the International Labour Convention number 98 of 1949, signed by Nigeria in 1960, was an issue. The convention was signed by Nigeria but not domesticated. And one of the questions for determination in the case was whether the convention is applicable in Nigeria since it was not domesticated. The first appellant applied to registrar of trade union for registration. The registration was refused on the ground that a similar union was in existence. And the appellant went to court. The lower court held inter alia that in as far as the ILO convention has not been enacted into law by National Assembly, it has no force of law in Nigeria. The Supreme Court upheld the position and held inter alia as follows. For a treaty to be valid and enforceable, it must have the force of law behind it. It must be supported by a law enacted by the National Assembly and not bits and pieces of legislation found here and there in other laws of the land. That is one of the Supreme Court ruling. In another ruling, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, between Apache and Ganifayem in 2001, volume 5.1, page 29, the Supreme Court held inter alia that no matter how beneficial to the country or the citizen, an international treaty or agreement to which Nigeria has become a signatory remains unenforceable if it is not enacted into law of the country by National Assembly. These are clear issues upon which the highest court of the land has ruled ad litem on this clear matter. Mr. Speaker, it will be more beneficial to our citizens if these issues are resolved by this Green Chamber. This Green Chamber has been known to take a very, very proactive and important issue. And judging from the fact that presided over by highly knowledgeable and legislative mastery in making, presiding over this House will show a better direction. And I'm happy with Mr. Speaker, I'm happy with the honorable colleagues, and I urge you to support this motion with the speed of light is required. I rest my case.